Kick-Ass Witch, putting the K in magic. I'm Joanna DeVoe, and you're watching another episode of Every Witch Way. This time featuring a real witch, Sheri Breault Kreitner of Lunar Wisdom, also known as Cricket Song if you are a YouTube fan. And usually I interview people because they have a specific message or a program that they're putting out that I think we can pick up a few tips from to help create the kick-ass life of our dreams. And Sheri is definitely filled with awesome information, and she shares it all over the internet. You definitely can get some great tips for creating the kick-ass life of your dreams from her. But the truth is, I really just wanted to talk to Sheri, and I used my interview show to be able to do that. And it was a great conversation, and I'm so glad I did, because she has a beautiful heart and a fabulous spirit, and I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. So here she is, Miss Sheri Cricket Song Breault Kreitner of Lunar Wisdom. Hi, Sheri. Welcome to Every Which Way.
Hi, Joanna. Yay!
Yay! I've been wanting to talk to you for a while now, so I'm really excited to see your beautiful face.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to see yours, too.
Yay! I know everybody knows who you are, but or at least most people that watch my channel. But I've had a lot of new subscribers that aren't in the witchy community, so one, I'm excited to talk to you to hopefully enlighten them a little bit about how nice and beautiful witches can be. And also, I just want to give those people a little bit of an introduction about who you are. So do you want to do that, or do you want me to do that?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do. I'm pretty laid back and easygoing, so.
Okay. Well, let's start with, you describe yourself as an eclectic, solitary, Wiccan practitioner. You're an empath, a tarot reader, a psychic, a medium. You do, let's see, past life regressions. You kind of do all things witchy.
Yeah.
But what I'm really interested in is how you got there.
Okay.
So it's interesting to me that I know you were a Roman Catholic, and then a Methodist, and then a Jehovah's Witness before you got to this.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I do tell people that little line, they're shocked at how it actually led to where I am. But for me, it's a natural progression, I think, because I guess, being brought up in a Roman Catholic home, we went to church every Sunday, so that really helped me establish a relationship with Deity. Whatever Deity was. So it really gave me a really strong foundation. And I went to a Roman Catholic high school, which really solidified it for me, or I thought solidified my beliefs for me. And then from there, I stayed a Roman Catholic for many years, even wanting to become a nun at one point. Then I went off to college. When I went off to college, that's when I really got an introduction of other religions and really started thinking, well, that's interesting. Well, what do you believe? Why do you believe that? And that's when the doors really started opening to other belief systems. And then I started having questions. That's where the big questioning started. But then it was like, I get where you're coming from, but it didn't really make sense. Many of the other paths at that time didn't really make sense to me. So I stayed with, being Roman Catholic, got married in a Roman Catholic church. And then when things in my personal life in regards to the marriage started sort of unfolding is when that relationship that I had with the church really fell apart for me. But then when I got pregnant with my son, years and years later, in a different relationship altogether, I said, I want to bring up my children with some idea of Deity or some relationship I felt that to not introduce them to anything would have been personally depriving them of something, of their other half. So I started searching. Was I going to go back to Catholicism, or was I going to do something else? So then I started looking at a Protestant church. And there was a student at my son's school whose grandmother was a minister in a Methodist church. And so I started talking to her, and where is your church? And she said, oh, we have Sunday services. You should come check it out. And we have Bible study. And I'm like, oh, okay. About a week or two after I started going to her church, I was approached by a Jehovah's Witness in a parking lot because I had just gotten married and was going to change my name. And she was in the parking lot stopping people, asking if they wanted to live forever in paradise. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, I'd like
Definitely.
to live forever. And she pulled out her Bible and shared a scripture with me. And I'm like, huh, okay. And she's like, well, would you like to know more? And of course, sure, I want to know more. Why not? And then as I started a Bible study with her, she had questions that I would then bring to my minister at the Methodist church and say, hey, what's your thought on this? And she was getting a little frustrated with me. And she's like, why do you have so many questions, Sheri? I'm like, because I'm talking to this girl who is a Jehovah's Witness who she says, look at this Bible quote. It makes so much sense. And she was getting very frustrated and said, some things you will never have answers to. You just have to take it on faith. Mm-hmm. And at that time, that just didn't resonate with me. So I cut off my relationship with the Methodist Church and began a serious Bible study with the Witness. And about a year later, I was then baptized as a witness. At that time, when I was studying to be a witness, they do not follow anything, or so they believe, pagan. So at that time, I did nothing pagan. Nothing. Every Christmas and birthdays and you name it, I did not celebrate it because it was pagan. So at that time, there was a clear definition in my mind what paganism and what I was being taught was Christian. So then when I completely broke away from Christianity, I turned to everything pagan because I had a pretty well set understanding of what paganism was, or sort of. So for me, that I sort of came full circle because I believe there's a lot of Catholicism really has a lot of paganistic
things. Absolutely.
So I kind of have embraced sort of what I believed or what I practiced. I sort of do that now, just under a different definition. So for me, it was a gradual, it made sense to me how I came to where I was and where I am.
For me, it sounds a lot like a pendulum swinging. Your exploration, and then it seems to have just sort of like settled, and it seems you've been grounded on this particular path that you're on for a while now. How long have you been a practicing Wiccan?
Gosh, since I left the Witnesses, and my daughter, I was trying to think about this. I was, and I don't want to, before I go further, I just want to make it clear that if anybody's watching this, I am the first person to defend not only Christianity in general, but the Witnesses as well as Methodists and Catholics, because I totally understand where they're coming from. So I have been in a group of people who have bashed Christianity and Witnesses, and have been the first one to say, you don't understand because you don't. You just don't. I was there. I know where they're coming from. I may not agree with it, but to bash them is, I feel, very unfair. But my daughter was a baby when I was out in service, door to door, preaching. So she was born in 2002. So I was pregnant with her. So I want to say so I was was probably since 2003 is when I left. So, what, 10 years we're talking now? 10 years.
I have a question about that period of time.
Sure.
Did you get a lot of doors slammed in your face, or people looking at you through the blinds and like, go away?
Uh-huh.
I feel like
Actually,
that's most people's reaction. Even when they hear the word Jehovah's Witness, they're kind of like, get me out of here!
Exactly.
What did that do to you inside? How did that feel? Did that strengthen you, or did that intimidate you?
I wasn't intimidated.
No.
I mean, I even remember, it's funny because I know where this lady's house is. She had a little barn in near the road, and she would sell stuff out of this little barn. And she had a huge pentacle on the barn, right? And I was with a group of sisters because, you know, when you're out in service, you generally go out in service with your own gender when you're a witness. And I remember we're all pulling up in the car, and everybody's going, okay, whose turn is it this week? You know, who's going to go out and talk to her? Because you have territories that you cover. And I was like, I'll go talk to her. I'll go talk to her. A woman needs to know Jesus Christ, needs to know the truth. The truth. And she was a witch. I find out now, you know, oh yeah, she's a practicing witch and runs a coven or whatever. And I remember, you know, trying to talk to her. She was very pleasant, but very no thank you. Mm-hmm. And I chuckle about it now because I wish I could establish something with her at this point, because now I'm like, just time and where she lives is just not conducive to it. But I never felt intimidated, but people definitely, I mean, we could hear your little feet running, see the little blind, and although people think that they're hiding and we don't know, you know, or we didn't know, we knew that you were hiding, but that was okay because we knew at some time your heart would soften and would need Jehovah at some point. So we would come back. So I really tell people that if you don't want witnesses to come to your house, you tell them point blank, do not come back. Otherwise they're going to come back.
Good information.
Although, you know,
you're really working with this teacher archetype, I noticed, because you said you wanted to be a nun, and then you felt compelled, you know, to go knock on people's door and spread the good word of Jehovah, and now you make these videos where you're teaching people about Wicca, you lead classes and workshops. Have you felt this your whole life?
Yeah. I realized, you know, thinking about the whole idea of pagan clergy, that I've sort of been clergy my whole life.
Yeah.
I've always been clergy.
You must have been an interesting playmate as a little girl.
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of bossy.
That's what I'm saying. That was my night. I was bossy too, so we might have had a little standoff of the Miss Bossy Pants if we had crossed each other's paths.
Yeah, although I can remember doing things like make-believe, and my friends would always ask me for the story plot. You know, okay, we're going to be runaways today, and we're running away because there was a mean monster or something, or our parents were mean, and so I'd give them the plot line, and then we'd act it out, which probably led to my degree in theater. You know, who knows?
Yeah,
but yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that, because I wanted to bring that up as well, and also that you practice magic. Imagination is such an important part of that. That is a key component to being able to visualize, and I'm going to jump around a little bit because now something else is popping in my head. You have a video I love called, My Braid of Spirituality, something.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain that? Because I thought that was really beautifully put.
That's an old video.
Yeah, you were talking about how it's you've got the three components of witchcraft, Wicca, and then the three universal truths.
Yeah, of course, the law of attraction.
Yes.
First. Yeah, I think it works really well together, and I have these conversations all the time. That the witchcraft or magic or whatever you want to label it. For me, I call it witchcraft, is definitely using visualizations, which you do if you're practicing the law of attraction, into my whole life, my spirituality, that being not just getting the picture in your head, as you know, but the whole experience of the visualization. Imagination, it definitely comes into that, but the whole being able to sort of teleport yourself back or forward to a moment that you can smell it, you can taste it, you can breathe it, you can feel it, you sense it, really is what helps you to deliberately create what it is you want to bring into your life. And I feel like as a witch or a magical practitioner, if you can't do that in however it is that works for you, because we all know that visualization doesn't work the same for everyone, but if you can't get there, then your magic isn't going to be successful. Your spell will not manifest if you cannot get there first with your head before you're there physically with your body.
Yeah, I studied method acting, and I remember when I discovered magic, I was like, oh, I got this covered.
Which is actually interesting, because if you think about it, I know we hear stories about actors who really get into the method acting and then sort of lose themselves and then have issues that character may have had.
Possess them.
Well, you know, there's a fine line there. And, well, that brings the whole thought of thought forms. Is it literally, you know, you're probably channeling this thought form or possessed the thought form that you have been studying, you know, acting, for me at least, the history and the background of the characters that I'm going to create and play. I need to know their favorite things and their history. You've created a thought form, especially now you're putting the emotion into it as you do it on stage, or for me it was on stage. You become that character, and for that time being, are you not channeling?
Yep. Yeah, it all starts coming together, and learning sense memory, how to smell the orange and taste the orange and feel the orange and see the orange when there is no orange.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that really excited me when I was, you know, watching your videos and learning about your path, because we have the theater, the law of attraction, and then the magic, which I know we tend to sometimes differ on how to perform magic, but we have those things in common. And then Wicca is like the third braid. For me, I guess I combine a lot of what you talk about as being Wicca in with witchcraft, like my love of nature and working with polarity and all of that. But can you describe a little bit, since I'm not a Wiccan and you are, how that is a part of your path?
Well, I think for me, and I know I've made a few videos, and I know people disagree, and it's just my personal perspective, and I never claim in any of my videos that my way is the only way is the truth. Been there, done that.
I love that about you, by the way. That's a beautiful quality.
Thank you. Oh, I love you. Anyways, Wicca for me is more of the religion part of my practice. And I know many people say you can't be Wiccan without being a witch. And I truly feel that at some point on your path as a Wiccan, that will happen. I mean, if you are truly following a Wiccan, from what I feel, a Wiccan path, you will eventually become a witch, because you'll eventually start practicing magic. When I first found Wicca, it wasn't because I wanted to do cool spells. It was because I was looking for a connection, and the witnesses didn't make it for me, that I still needed a connection to deity. So I came to Wicca in that aspect of it was going to be a way for me to establish a stronger and a more successful connection to deity for me. So for a year or two, I did not practice witchcraft, although I was practicing magic, but not in the way that I didn't understand that that's what I was doing. I just thought I was being positive, and I was putting out my wishes, you know, wishing upon a star, wishing on my candles for my birthday. I was doing all the pagan-y stuff I was told not to do. But putting out intentions that I would not have classified as practicing witchcraft. And then I was doing rituals, but even in rituals, it was more of a just connection to deity, celebrating the seasons, no magic for a while. So at that time, I would have told you I was Wiccan, but I wasn't a witch. What do you mean? It's not the same. And then after understanding and bringing in the correspondences and what this means and what I'm actually doing, that's when I felt, oh, yeah, I'm a witch. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for me, the two are different, but I do know that there are witches that do say that deity is definitely involved in what they do. And I don't say it's not. It's just there's a fine line for me. There's a very thin line between the two. Because I have met witches who are not Wiccan. You know, they are not Wiccan at all. They will tell you, no, I'm a Christian witch. I know plenty of Christian witches. I do know some satanic witches too. So they're not Wiccan.
Yeah. The Christian witches really interest me. I think that's an interesting combination. Mm-hmm. Do you pull it all from your Christian past, or is that in your past?
No, Mary lingers very much so. She is the goddess, and she was always, even when I was Catholic, I know I was told she was important, but not equal. In my heart, I knew, for me, she was equal. Mm-hmm. I mean, she always was. You know, the crowning of Mary, when we did it, I don't remember what day, but I'm sure it was in May, when we crowned her with the wreath. It was like the best. That, and I remember being younger and doing some sort of procession with candles into the church, which I now think that memory is part of that whole Candlemas kind of the ritual that the mass that they do.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I grew up Mennonite Brethren, and there was nothing to do with Mary or rituals or incense or candles or stained glass windows or any of that. That was all like, Catholics were definitely going to hell. For sure. So I had we weren't even allowed to be friends really with people that weren't Christian, but my best friend was a Catholic, and that was a little controversial, and I went to church with her, and I just remember being like, well, this is different. And then once I learned about paganism, I realized, wow, this is very pagan. That's why that was off limits in my particular upbringing. So it's interesting how, I don't know, how religions sort of like section themselves off, and it's interesting how you visited the different religions. It gives you a nice overview, and in my opinion, it helps to study different religions if what you're looking for is a connection to God, because I think God is in all paths. All paths lead to God.
I agree. They lead there. Different paths. Mm-hmm. Different paths, definitely. But there, I feel, and I've said it to my husband, that every path has some truth. Mm-hmm. There is some truth. And if you really, truly want to find that, you'll find it. But if you're closed-minded, like when I was a witness, in the heart of it, granted, toward the beginning and toward the end, I still had the same questions. And it's funny, I find that the same questions I had at the beginning of being a witness, I had at the end of being a witness, that those questions that they couldn't answer for me, which was, well, how do we know we have the truth? How do we know? How do we know the Catholics don't have the truth? Yep. How do we know the Methodists don't have the truth? How do we know the Mormons that we met out in service? How do we know they don't have the truth? And that was that one thing that it just never went away, even though I sort of ignored it for a while. But
yeah, I like to say no one has a monopoly on the truth. But did you get your questions answered? Do you feel like those nagging questions that you had, do you feel they're answered now, or do you have more questions?
I always have questions, and I always look at things, I think, from different perspectives, you know, and that's why I joined YouTube, because other people had interesting perspectives, and even if, for example, if you and I don't agree on a topic, I mean, we generally have the same end, but we get there. I take what you say and I really apply to what I believe, and I see if it fits. Well, how does this fit? Does this fit better? Or well, I like part of this. I think this fits with this. And I do this with my husband, because even though he's not, well, I don't think he would say he's Wiccan, although I know he says it. But if you really start picking at what his beliefs are, they're more, Eastern philosophies, which he sort of blends in. And so he'll look at something from a very different direction. Also being a man, he has a very different mindset. So we'll talk about it, and I'll take some of what he talks about and sort of put it on what I'm looking at and say, well, but honey, what about this? How do you figure this out? So I'm still always constantly, I mean, just recently, a conversation I had with someone else, I don't say eclectic anymore. I say non-traditional Wiccan, because that came from a conversation I had with someone that from her perspective and what she was telling me and sharing with me that she had done research and come across, I'm like, you know what? You're right, Annika. I think it's non-traditional kind of thing. So I'm always changing and always adapting and finding new truths and new perspectives that fit with what I think I believe, or I believe.
Yeah, I love that about YouTube. I think that's part of what how long have you been on YouTube, by the way?
I don't know.
Is this your first channel? It's Mom Calls Me Sheri, and you go by the name Cricket Song for anybody who wants to look you up. And obviously
now it's Lunar Wisdom, because
but the URL is Mom Calls Me Sheri, right?
Yes, they said the link wouldn't change, right?
Okay, so people can put in Lunar Wisdom or either or and find you.
I believe so now. It just changed this morning because I manifested that for myself.
Oh, perfect. I love the Lunar Wisdom. That's your website is lunarwisdom.net, and you have a coven.
Yeah.
That is the Lunar Wisdom Coven that meets once a week. I've been stalking you. I know this. And people can go there and take classes and workshops. Are you still doing the Dedicant program?
I am. I have 2 classes right now. The first class that I started ends in September. We were just talking about that they will have been with me every week online on Skype for a year and a day come September.
Wow. Are you doing another one for anybody who might be interested in that? I'll take that as a no.
No, yet. I don't know. I because they would like to continue.
Oh, okay.
And sort of do more in depth. Yeah, so if I do that, I don't know how much time I can really dedicate to more stuff outside, because I don't charge for that. So that's a lot of time that I'm not saying, it's just, I have a business. Lunar Wisdom is also my business. And the more time I dedicate to that, I take away from the time to make a living. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm waiting for guidance. When
maybe
September
combine
comes,
the two. Maybe you can charge.
Yeah, I don't know. Part of me, I thought about it, because I know a lot of other people do, online, offline, in person here in this city. I know they do. But it harkens back to that whole being a nun and being out in service as a witness. And there's part of me that feels that, I don't know, I need a balance for myself. I need to give as well as I am doing my business where I'm making money there, to be able to not have to work outside the home. So I don't know. And I'm going to wait. I gave it up to Spirit, and I will know the answer will come in September when it's meant to come.
Okay, so stay tuned for anybody interested in doing the Dedicant program with Sheri.
It's up on the website, so if I do decide, I will post it, because I do go through a whole application process.
And, we got rolling here back when we were talking about deity, and I have a question, so now I'm going to, jump back a little bit, because this is a question, I do this a lot. I'll say, universe, source, the divine, spirit, God, goddess, however you define it. How do you define God? What is God for you?
I have to give credit to Christopher Penczak. I must give credit where credit is due. God herself. And that's what I use. Because his, I remember what book. It was The Outer. It was the last in the temple. You guys were doing the journey. Yeah, it was the last book in that series. I love it. I got to go back now. I should have started at the beginning, but I didn't. He describes it as the combination, that whole idea of Baphomet, the female and the male together as one, the all. And that just sticks for me. And I feel that universal source is God herself. So when I'll use those interchangeably, the divine, but when I think of deity in my head, it's God herself. It is the perfect blending of both polarities.
Do you see that as an energy or an actual figure?
It depends. Honestly, and I'm like, she's asking me questions and I have no set answers. But that's how my spirituality is. If I'm doing ritual, if I'm in magic circle and I'm looking to manifest something on the physical plane, I will personify deity. And usually for me, it's Isis. But sometimes it's a different deity altogether. But if I'm looking to manifest on the physical plane, I tend to have a physical manifestation image in my head. If I'm talking about just working with the energies and just talking about the energy that resides in me, then I will talk about it more as universal source, because it is an energy, but just as I am manifested, when I'm trying to manifest on the physical, I find it's helpful for me to have a manifestation, an image, and that's where Isis comes in for me.
Yeah, that's a big topic of conversation too. I didn't mean to be like, tell us who God is. We're gonna hold you to this forever. And
it may change, and I have set tenets or beliefs, but those are not always set either. As I'm learning and expanding as a soul, as an essence, I find that things change with that too.
Yeah, I really like the word practice a lot, and I like that people in witchcraft and paganism and Wicca, I like that they use the word practice, because I don't know, I think it has the connotation of you're never reaching perfection, you're never reaching the truth or the all, you're just in a continuous state of practicing.
Exactly.
And it's an ongoing experiential thing, and I think that God, whatever that is, reveals itself to you in pieces, and it might reveal itself to you as, a personified deity one day, and one day you might just feel it by dipping your feet in a stream and feeling the energy from that.
Right. Perfect. Exactly.
I also, before I let you go, wanted to tell people a little bit about your tarot readings, because I've read some of your testimonials, and I hear you're pretty good. How long have you been reading tarot?
What did we say? Time for me is really an illusion.
Several years.
Yeah, it wasn't too long. Whatever I said when I started, my daughter was born in 2002, 3, 4. A couple of years after that, I started I've always been fascinated with cards. I used to sit in the hallway in the house that we grew up in and sit with a deck of cards and pretend to read for my sister. We were gypsies, and I was reading her cards, and, knowing now what then, I'm like, oh, yeah, cards have always been in my life. So I was always been fascinated by the tarot cards. So years after, I would read for family and friends for no charge, just to learn how to do it. And when I injured myself on the job and had to leave work, my husband said, why don't you start charging, make a little extra money, when you run out of PTO or whatever it is, maybe you can help with the money in that way. And I said, you think people will pay for it? I don't know. He's like, try. And when I started going back to the people that I was reading for free, said, hey, I'm going to start charging. What do you think is fair? And actually they set my price, and it hasn't changed.
Oh,
so it's been years.
How can people buy a tarot reading from you? Or do you say tarot or tarot?
I say tarot.
I do too. How can they get a reading from you if they live in California? Because you're in Massachusetts.
Yeah, well, actually, I have clients in Europe, and a couple of clients that constantly come to me. You can go to my website, and there's options. I can do Skype. I could do phone. I can do YouTube videos, which people seem to really enjoy. I could do email too, if that's better for you. If we're not meeting in person, I do require you to pay through PayPal first. And I added what I need from you. Send me an email, give me your transaction ID. I need a photo. I don't need it, but it makes it easier if I'm not talking to you on the phone, if you can send a current photo or a link to a video so I can just sort of get your energy, get the feel of what you're about, and then your question or a general reading.
Oh, nice.
Really
And they can do
neat.
it face-to-face like this as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Most definitely. I enjoy this exchange when I'm doing readings, because I find that, I'm sure you know, that when you're doing a reading for someone, you have a feel of where you should go, and you're not really sure if that's the direction that they're looking for in their question. So with a video, if someone says, just tell me about my relationship, I'm unhappy. So if I see something that maybe there's someone else coming up in the reading, but you only said there's one person you're in a relationship with, if I could say, well, Joe, I see there's someone else. Is there, you could say, oh, yeah, oops, kind of thing, So, and then you would get a more clear and accurate, not accurate, but detailed reading, as opposed to just in a YouTube video sometimes.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
And I lied. I have one more question before I
Sure.
let you go. What is your one tip for living a kick-ass life?
Be true to yourself. Don't let other people tell you who you should be. Live authentically. If it feels right for you, it's right for you. I don't care what anybody else says, whether they're an expert or not. Be true to you.
Yay.
Oh, I'm going to cry.
You're a beautiful spirit, my
You're
friend.
beautiful.
Much love to you, Sheri. Thank you for doing this.
It was my pleasure. Are you kidding?
Mwah. Peace.